Hello. In this video, we're going to be talking about elaborating well, specifically about elaborating clearly. A lot of students, I find, want to begin their sentences with the word this very often, or it, or they, or things like that are just unclear. Those are pronouns, and pronouns are things that refer to nouns but aren't nouns themselves, right? And so what's confusing when you begin your sentence with this is readers might not know what exactly you're referring to, especially if the sentence beforehand had multiple elements in it. So the hope is that instead of using the word this, we'll be specific and clear about what this refers to, and that will clarify our elaboration. It will commit to one specific interpretation of what you're saying instead of being vague and non-committal. And really, it will help you to be less lazy intellectually. It will help you think through what you're saying, because if you can't write it clearly, it shows that you don't understand it. So let's look at this. That's an example of how not to use this. But this lesson assumes that you can do the following. Number one, identify the subject of a sentence. If you can't do that, this lesson will be very confusing for you. Number two, identify nouns and verbs. You should know those parts of speech. Most people start learning that in 6th grade. If you can't do that in a sentence, make sure you know how to do these two things before continuing with this video. Now, here's the first part. We're going to look at a problem, a solution, and a strategy, okay? Look at this pair of sentences. Jordan stayed up until 3 o'clock a.m. playing video games. This shows that he is irresponsible. So imagine you're writing about a character named Jordan in a novel and you're explaining who he is, right? And you're making the point that he's irresponsible or something. You write these two sentences, but you notice that you wrote a sentence that says this shows in the beginning, and that's lazy writing, so you want to be a better writer. The problem, of course, is that the word this is hiding what the real subject of the sentence is. What does this refer to? It's lazy writing, it's intellectually lazy. These two sentences all by themselves might seem really clear. There's really only one idea that you're talking about, and that's what this refers to. But in the middle of an essay, it becomes much more important. You'll almost never write just two sentences and submit that, okay? So how do we fix this problem? Well, we could say something like, Jordan's decision to stay up so late shows that he's irresponsible. So now the whole thing is, Jordan stayed up until 3 o'clock a.m. playing video games. Jordan's decision to stay up so late shows that he is irresponsible. Now, we know exactly what's being referred to here instead of using the word this. How did I do that? It's simple. Here's the strategy. I take the action and I turn it into a thing. That thing then becomes the subject of my next sentence, okay? You identify the action in a sentence, you turn it into a thing, and you make it the subject. One way to imagine this is you identify the verb, turn it into a noun, and make that the subject. If you want to use actual ELA terms, actual language arts vocabulary, which you should, but you might imagine it like this bird. This is a bird with a blue beak and blue webbed feet. Interesting looking bird. Now, there's this thing called microevolution where animals have small changes over time that change basically the species in a way over a lot of time. So maybe it changes into something like this, where the feet are no longer webbed. Okay, now it's basically still the same verb, but it's almost taking a different form in a way. There's just something different about it and what it can do and how it can operate in its environment. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to change the idea altogether, but we're going to change the way it operates in its environment, specifically by changing it from a verb into a noun or a noun phrase. So we're going to ignore the one that is in the verb form that we already use because we don't want to be repetitive. Here are a few more examples. Michelle ignores texts from a friend for 3 days. This proves she is avoiding conflict. The question, of course, is what is this? This refers to her decision to ignore the texts, right? If you can answer that question, what is this? It'll help you a lot. She ignores text from a friend for 3 days. This proves she's avoiding conflict. No. How about her 3-day silence is also another thing that you could say this refers to. Now, you're hopefully picking up on this, but there's not always just one answer for each set of sentences. Ignoring her friend's messages, right, is what this refers to. So we could revise this sentence in a number of ways. Her ignoring text from a friend for 3 days Ignoring her friend's texts proves she is avoiding conflict, right? This makes a lot more sense. Michelle ignores texts from a friend for 3 days. Ignoring her friend's texts proves she's avoiding conflict. That's probably your claim, is that this Michelle person is one who avoids conflict or doesn't care about her friends enough to deal with the difficult things. I don't know what it is, okay? But I identified the action. I turned that action into a thing, ignoring her friend's texts, and that became the subject of the second sentence instead of this. We could also add a longer one, right? Her decision to ignore the texts proves she's avoiding conflict. There's more than one way to do this. Great, this is a much better pair of sentences than the first two. What changed is that the elaboration before was unclear because the subject was vague. It was just the word this. Now, however, there's no question what's being discussed. Her decision to ignore the texts is what proves she's avoiding conflict. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm committing to one interpretation of the evidence I gave, which was that Michelle is ignoring these texts for 3 days. I'm committing to one idea and I'm explaining that. I'm not being lazy. I'm being diligent in what I'm saying and my thoughts are clear for my reader. Let's look at another example really fast. David blames the referee after losing the game. This shows he cannot accept responsibility. Now, of course, what is this? It is blaming the referee. That's what he's doing. So instead of using the word this, we can say David blames the referee after losing the game. Blaming the referee after the loss shows he cannot accept responsibility. Great. David blames the referee after losing the game. His poor sportsmanship shows he cannot accept responsibility. That's a little more interesting. It's a little bit less repetitive, but we're explaining the same idea instead of just leaving it vague by saying this. I'm identifying the action, turning that action into a thing, an idea, and I'm making that idea, that thing, the subject of my elaboration. So in class, we'll have some guided practice, meaning we'll work together to solve some instead of you just watching me fix some sentences. But here's what we're going to look at in class. Maya deletes comments that disagree with her opinions. This proves that she cannot handle criticism. Here are a couple sentence frames that you can use to revise that second sentence. I'll let you pause the video and try it yourself. Okay. Hopefully you got some good sentences. The act of deleting comments that disagree with her opinions proves that she cannot handle criticism. That might be a little bit repetitive. Maya's decision to delete those comments proves she cannot handle criticism, right? Easy ways to revise. Here's another sentence. Again, feel free to pause and work it out yourself. Anthony copies homework from a friend before class. The act of cheating suggests he's unprepared, right? Anthony's decision to copy his friend's work suggests he's unprepared, right? So we got a few different ways we could do that. Here's a third idea, a third pair of sentences. Elizabeth volunteers every Saturday at the animal shelter. This shows she is compassionate. Pause the video and try and work this one out. Okay. I might replace this with something like, her volunteering shows she's compassionate, or volunteering at the animal shelter shows she's compassionate, or helping take care of animals shows she's compassionate, right? Any of those things would be great, but those are some ways we practice. Also in class, I'm going to give you some sentences to work on individually. I'll have you write them down. We might even have a worksheet, and I'll walk around and see who needs specific help with what. But here are some of the sentences that we're going to look at in class, or will have looked at in class if you're watching this after the fact. But feel free to revise these. Well, you're not really revising. You're adding your own elaboration. You're adding a sentence afterwards that doesn't begin with this, but begins with the verb from the sentences here, but in the noun form. You're taking the action, turning it into a thing, and beginning the next sentence with that thing. Feel free to work on these on your own. The essential question for all of this, though, all of what I'm talking about, though, see, again, I just use the word this in speech. The essential question for all of what I'm talking about is this. Why is avoiding the word this more than just a grammar issue? Because saying the word this at the beginning of a sentence is not necessarily bad grammar, but it's just unclear. It's just bad writing. No one would say this is not good English, right? But clear subjects make clear thinking. They force thinking to be clear. They help your readers understand clearly what you're saying. So if your readers can't see what the word this refers to, if they can't easily name what it is you're talking about, they won't understand your point. And if they don't understand your point, they're wasting their time reading whatever you wrote, and you're wasting your time writing it. So the rule is, when you're elaborating, when you're explaining evidence you've provided, when you're adding more detail, more explanation to something, when you want to write the word this at the beginning of a sentence, ask yourself what exactly this refers to. If you can name it, if you can answer that question, what is this? Then you can write it. If you can answer the question, what is this? You can write it. And if you can't answer that, here's how you do it. You turn the action into a thing. And if you're unable to do all of that, then it probably shows that you don't really understand what you're writing about enough to begin with. So hopefully you've done enough research on the topic to understand it before you start writing about it. And as you write, hopefully this strategy makes it easier to be clear. So instead of the word this, I want you to clarify in your elaboration. I want you to commit to one interpretation of what you're saying, and I want you to kill any laziness that you have going on in your mind where you don't want to think through things all the way or think clearly about things. I hope this video helps you as a writer, and if you have questions or need help in your writing or about any of the stuff I've talked about in this video, please come talk to me. See ya.